Behind every throne of Satuum was another kind of throne. Royal palaces may dazzle us with their gold, their chandeliers, their marble halls. But hidden beneath that glitter says a world of stench, filth, and secrets too foul to ignore. Because while kings and queens shaped history, they also had to answer a very human call. Tonight, we peel back the velvet curtains and enter the shadowy world of royal toilets. The disturbing, shocking, and sometimes downright unbelievable ways monarchs relieved themselves. Palaces were built as symbols of power, beauty, and majesty. Yet behind the perfumed halls, the problem of human waste lingered constantly. In a time before modern plumbing, even the grandest castles smelled far less glamorous than they looked. And for royals, the problem was not only hygiene, but privacy, prestige, and politics. How a monarch used the toilet could reveal everything about their authority, their health, and even their dignity. One of the most shocking realities is that for centuries, kings and queens did not have private bathrooms. Instead, they relied on the chamber pot, an ornate bowl often made of porcelain, silver, or even gold. These pots were kept beneath beds, under thrones, or behind decorative screens. At Versailles, the Sun King Louis XIV sometimes received courtiers while sitting on his commode, issuing royal decrees as servants discreetly carried away his waste. For him, relieving himself was not a private matter, but an act of majesty, a reminder that even in his most human moments, he was never truly alone. But chamber pots were often forgotten or overflowing. Palaces, despite their beauty, were littered with the lingering stench of human waste. Visitors recorded the smell of Versailles as overpowering, a reminder that beneath all the perfume and powder, filth reigned supreme. If the king had a chamber pot, someone had to deal with it. Enter perhaps the most peculiar and humiliating role in royal service, the groom of the stool. In Tudor England, this attendant was not just a servant, but one of the most powerful figures at court. His duty? To assist the king during his private moments on the toilet, to clean him afterward, and to manage the royal privy chamber. It sounds degrading, but this position granted extraordinary access to the monarch. The groom of the stool became a confidant, hearing secrets no one else would dare whisper. Their proximity to the king's most vulnerable moments translated into political influence. The royal toilet, therefore, was not just about hygiene, it was a place where power itself was negotiated. But royal toilets also became dangerous. A monarch's most vulnerable moment was, after all, when they were seated on the privy, and history records that assassins sometimes used this weakness to their advantage. In Scotland, King James I met his death in 1437 after being trapped in a sewer passage beneath his privy. When enemies stormed the palace, he attempted to flee through the toilet shaft, only to find it blocked. He was cornered and brutally murdered. The royal toilet was more than uncomfortable, it could be fatal. Perhaps nowhere were toilet problems more infamous than at the Palace of Versailles. Though built as one of the most magnificent palaces in the world, it had shockingly few proper lavatories. Thousands of nobles and servants roamed its halls daily, yet many relieved themselves in stairwells, corridors, or behind curtains. Contemporary visitors wrote with disgust of the smell that clung to the palace. Even the king's private apartments could not escape the odor that wafted through its gilded halls. Chamber pots overflowed, sewage dripped down walls, and servants hurried with buckets to dump waste in the gardens. So while Versailles symbolized elegance and absolute power, its true atmosphere was far less glamorous, closer to a foul-smelling cesspit than a paradise of refinement. As we've seen, royal palaces hid some of the foulest toilet secrets in history. From the power of the groom of the stool to the overflowing halls of Versailles, the truth was far from golden. But the story doesn't end here. In the next half, we'll uncover even darker revelations: exploding toilets, royal disguises, and the shocking medical secrets hidden in royal waste. Stay with us as we continue our descent into the disturbing toilet history of the world's most powerful palaces. Royal palaces weren't just smelly, they could also be deadly. With primitive sewage systems, gases like methane often built up in underground pits. In some cases, toilets actually exploded. In 1184, in the German city of Erfurt, a gathering of nobles ended in disaster when a latrine collapsed beneath them, plunging dozens into a cesspit below. Many drowned in filth. While not all were royals, the tragedy revealed the hidden danger lurking beneath palaces. Their toilets could kill. Even centuries later, the risk remained. In some castles, torchlight and methane created a lethal combination, an explosive reminder that waste management was as much a hazard as warfare itself. For royal women, relieving themselves posed an even greater challenge. Queens in heavy gowns and layered skirts could not easily slip away unnoticed. Some carried what were known as bourdalours, delicate porcelain pots shaped to fit discreetly under their dresses. In Versailles, noble women were known to relieve themselves mid-conversation, hidden by silk and lace, while servants quickly whisked away the evidence. And for queens traveling long distances, special portable toilets were built into royal carriages. These disguised privies allowed rulers to maintain their dignity on the move, though the smell inside those gilded coaches told a different story. Toilet secrets weren't just about discomfort, they were about health. For centuries, physicians studied royal waste to diagnose illnesses. The king's stool was carefully observed, described, and even smelled by doctors to judge his state of health. Louis XIV's physicians kept detailed records of his bowel movements, sometimes even reporting them to courtiers. A monarch's digestion became a matter of state, and constipation could spark political concern. The privacy of the royal body was never guaranteed. Their most intimate functions became tools of medical scrutiny, and in turn, of political gossip. Some palaces tried to solve their toilet problems with clever architecture. At Hampton Court, Henry VIII's engineers built massive brick sewers that carried waste directly into the Thames. In theory, this kept the palace clean. In reality, it turned the river into an open cesspool. At the Tower of London, guardrobes or medieval toilets emptied directly into the moat. The water surrounding the fortress became so polluted, it was described as black as ink and reeking of decay. Royal grandeur, it seemed, floated on rivers of waste. Perhaps most shocking of all was how public the royal toilet could be. For Louis XIV, using the commode in front of courtiers was an assertion of authority. He transformed his private needs into a royal ritual. In Japan, some emperors practiced ritual purification, where attendants were present even during intimate cleansing. In Mughal India, emperors had entire teams dedicated to their bath and toilet rituals, an army of attendants tasked with managing waste and hygiene. For commoners, the toilet was hidden in shame. For royals, it became theater, an event that reminded everyone of their elevated, almost untouchable status, even in their most human moments. As centuries passed, the foul conditions of palaces became harder to ignore. By the 18th and 19th centuries, architects began installing early flush toilets. Queen Elizabeth I is often credited with having one of the first in England, though it was rarely used. By the Victorian era, indoor plumbing slowly replaced the chamber pot. Castles and palaces modernized, but not without difficulty. Sewage pipes often burst, leaks flooded grand apartments, and the stench of centuries lingered in the walls. Only in the 20th century did palaces begin to fully embrace modern sanitation, finally bringing dignity and privacy to royal thrones. So what do these disturbing toilet secrets reveal? They remind us that kings and queens, for all their crowns and glory, were still bound by the same basic needs as every human being. Their palaces might have gleamed with gold, but behind the curtains lay overflowing pots, rivers of waste, and attendants with the most undignified jobs in history. The royal toilet was more than just a necessity, it was a symbol of power, politics, and vulnerability. A reminder that no matter how divine they claimed to be, monarchs were not above nature. If you enjoyed uncovering these darker sides of history, don't stop here. Our past is filled with hidden stories that lie just beneath the surface, shocking, bizarre, and unforgettable. Be sure to subscribe to A Dark History for more untold tales from behind the gilded walls. And remember, behind every throne, there's another kind of throne.